Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. Dr. Jane here, your favorite psychologist. The conversation we're going to have in this video is on the development of the prefrontal cortex. So we're still talking about brain development. And so the past couple videos, those were overview of the entire brain. And I am drilling it down to where we're going to be looking at some specific areas as it pertains to personality, as it pertains to our cognition and our ability to navigate the world or not, or how we do so. And so that's the sphere for this video. We're looking at our prefrontal cortex, which is a big deal. Now, our prefrontal cortex, so general view, overview, by the time a child is 5 years old, about 90% of their brain is actually developed. The last 10% is huge and occurs throughout the person's lifetime. You can look in another video where I spoke specifically about lobal functionings and so forth. So this is just a brief overview of these things. We have 4 lobes, and then we have our cerebellum. And this line here is where we have our brainstem. In the frontal lobe, it handles all thought, voluntary function, memory, the formation of goals, abstract thinking, planning, impulse control. In our parietal lobe, this is the yellow part, and this is our area of association. This is where sensation is processed, and this is where object recognitions happen, hand-eye coordination. In the back, this is the one in the red. Very big deal here, our occipital lobe. And this is our visual center, where our visual information is processed. And then we have all these lines looking thing here. That is our cerebellum, and it's responsible for balance as well as muscle coordination. And then the one in the green, this is hearing, language control, social interaction. Okay, remember I said we are going to be drilling it in. And so we are looking specifically at the area in blue. And this is our frontal lobe. This is mental and action. So a lot of our mental functions happen here, as well as the control of voluntary movement. This area, and this is the area in blue. Let's talk about planning. Big deal for our lives, period. When we're talking about planning, that's an important life skill. What do you need to accomplish the task? Who do you need to coordinate with? Where does this coordination happen, and so forth? Problem solving, another big life skill. And we have to be able to problem solve as we navigate our lives. Motivation, what gets us going, and what is going to, that internal motivation, what is that? So that we can accomplish the goals that we set for ourselves. Decision making, another big deal. How do we know which direction to go and what decision to make? Very big deal. Impulse control, another big deal. Do I have the ability at 35, 45, whatever age a person is, to control my impulse? impulses. Can I do that? Social behavior. Whatever the society we live in, do we recognize the social cues for those societies? And so that we are able to dwell in that particular society. Personality. Who are we? Memory. Another big deal here. Learning. Huge, because learning allows us to navigate the world. Our pleasure and reward center, very big deal, because what gives us that reward, because whatever gives us that reward, that's what we are going to keep looking for, so we can feel that reward. And the next big one here is attention. You guys, this is all of our executive functions and other things that go along in our frontal lobe. Very big deal. Now, in the development of our frontal lobe, we have this growth of the myelin sheath. So a lot of this happens as a person enter their teens and so forth, and it keeps going. Let's talk about this little, it looks like a wand, right? It's called a neuron. And our neuron, this is the building block of our nervous system. And it's structured the way it is because then it allows for communication between neurons throughout our whole body. And you have some nerve cells that are really long and so forth. It's actually really, really efficiently designed and effectively designed for the job that it is created for. This area in red, that's our myelin sheath, right? The myelin sheath, there is continued growth of myelin, and that allows for the speed up or the speeding of neurotransmissions of messages. And then we have better communication. And we see that as the person gets older. So in, let's say, 11, 12, 13, 14, and so forth. When a child, I give you this example. Let's do this one. If you tell a child, a little child, the room is dark, but the child walk in the room and the light is on. How is it dark? Maybe the energy in the room is dark, but a child 6, 7, 8, they understand concrete thinking. So things that they can see, touch, feel, as opposed to abstract thinking. The idea that a room is dark, even though there is light in it, that's an abstract thought. Because what do you mean it's dark? There's light in the room. That's an abstract thinking, right? Abstract thought. We see abstract thinking 10, 11, 12. And it really has to do with the increase in the myelin growth and the filling in of the gray matter in the frontal lobe and specifically the prefrontal cortex. And these developments begin, they bring improvement to an individual's judgment, to their impulse, and their ability to control their impulses and long-term planning. And so we see better long-term planning, late teens, early 20s, and it gets better and better. And then we see it solid at about 23, 24, 25. And so this is why it is so important for parents to continue to speak with and have conversations with their young adults. Just because a person is 18 years old and quote unquote adult, there's a lot of work that is happening and development that's going on in this area, in the frontal lobe and specifically the prefrontal cortex. So your prefrontal cortex is part of the frontal lobe. And there's so much development going on there where the gray matter is filling out, um, and it improves the individual's ability to um, have better executive functioning. Some of the development that we see here. So this is the front of the brain, front, um, between 10 and 18 years old, limbic system. It intensifies during puberty along with hormones. And this is what drive emotion. I did a video on the limbic system. You can go and check that out. Rapid cognitive, emotional, social, and rational growth from childhood to adult. This is when they're clicking, and you're like, oh, you understand that, right? But at this age, we also see greater risk-taking behavior. And we see greater risk-taking because then, again, the child is growing, but planning, when you're planning with a 16, 17-year-old, you still really have to talk them through, you know? Well, what about this? What about that? And so you're talking them through the decision-making process, the planning process, and so forth. However, when the child, this is now a young adult, between 18 and 25, hits that 18 points, policy says that the child is now an adult, not the child, the person is now an adult. However, again, we still have a lot of development that's going on between 18 and 24. And so in the prefrontal cortex, this is where we have further development and the person learns or acquire better impulse control. This is important because then what a person will do at 25, 26, they will not do, 18, 19, right? They would just do all these crazy things because then they don't understand the full implications of consequences, and so they're very impulsive. 18, 19, 20. They're huge development going on, but those individuals are a lot of time quite impetuous and quite impulsive. Greater control of impulsive action. They're less risk-taking and more sound judgment. This is why the parent have to transition the child into adulthood. The child just doesn't become an adult. The young adult has to be transitioned into adulthood. That means that the conversations and the dynamics of the conversation changes. So it is not me as a parent telling the child, you're going to do this and you're going to do that or whatever, the young adult, sorry. No, it is the parent guiding this young adult through the decision-making process. Well, what do you think about that? How do you think that that's going to work? And asking their young adult child a lot of probing questions. And so as they're asking these probing questions, the child critical skills increases and their depth of thoughts also increases. And so that they're able to make this think critically about situations, about things, about people, and about the decisions that they have to make. And so that they make better decisions and they have more sound judgment about a lot of things. And so it is very important that parents understand that this is still happening, but also that young adults also understand that this is still happening. And so this is not the time when the child turned 18 for the parents to stop talking and for the child to stop listening, because then they're way too, it's fraught with the potential of so many mistakes that the young person can make that sometimes they don't ever recover from. And so we are, as parents, are still in that position of protecting the child, this young adult, sorry, and teaching them to protect themselves by making sound decision and thinking deeply and critically about things. If you like this video, please comment, like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any stories about parental betrayal, please email them to me. If you have any stories about things that you should not have done between 18 and 24, and you did those things, if you have any of those stories about how they're impacting you and so forth, please email them to me. Again, my name is Dr. Jane, and I am your favorite psychologist.